This will be a good opportunity for me to talk about how I go about my drawings. With complicated subject matter, you can sometimes I think people are tempted to project, which is totally cool if they want to do that. But because I like to have a looser feel with my paintings, I feel that if I project or if I grid, it just gets a little bit too tight for me. And I obviously don't want that. That's not the look that I'm after. So when you're painting something that tends to be kind of a complicated subject, it can be challenging to keep it loose. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just looking at shapes, getting basic shape ideas onto the panel. The same way I do when I'm doing plein air painting. And no, that looks like more like that. So I'm just going to put the big shapes in, and then I can start adding, refining those shapes a little bit. And none of this needs to be 100% accurate. It's just got to be close, right? Or it's just got to look good. That's what it's got to do. It's got to look good. Sometimes I'll do things that are not accurate, or they're not, true to the source material, but they just look so good that I want to leave them. Okay, so what do we got here? I think the water's over here. And then, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for, I'm just looking for shapes, like I said. Massive buildings over to the right, including the sidewalk, massive buildings to the left, sky shape, the mountain in the distance, which I might change the shape of that a little bit, although it's not too bad. Then the distant shoreline, and what I'll do is I'll look and I'll say, okay, where does this distant shoreline fall? Is it in the middle of the photograph or the composition? Where exactly is it? And I'm thinking it's like right about here. And I'm thinking I got this. I think I got the road. Now I'm looking for the top of the road, which I think is probably about. That seems. I don't know. Maybe that seems right. Something like that. And then there's a second level of the road, or the bend in the road right here. Okay, got a little bit too much mineral spirits on the panel. That's okay. There's the water there. The two layers of road, or the road as it goes over the hill towards the bay, and then this here is the bend down that's now coming this direction. All right, so now I got a tree over here. Not sure how I'm going to resolve this. I don't like how the tree goes out into the tracks and into the middle. It's kind of like the tree comes out to the middle. That's too big. So I'm going to kind of pull it back a little bit. And it comes up past here, but it comes down like that. So it's kind of here. And then this tree comes out. I'm also looking, where does that tree fall in the panel, like in the composition? And it appears to be kind of in the middle, right? So I'm constantly making these little checks where I'm looking at the image as, say, a cityscape, but I'm also just looking at it like, oh, there's that shape. Where is that? Is it in the middle of the panel? Is it right to left, up, down? Where is it? And seems to be about here. And then it comes down into the water, or also too, I'll look at the size of it as well. That's another way to judge if I've got it, if I'm getting if I'm getting an accurate representation. There's a few cars out here. I'm not sure how many cars I'm going to include. And the line of cars. Okay, there's down at the bottom, it sort of turns this way. Now I can look at the shape here too. I can look at this sidewalk shape. Obviously there's shadows in there, which kind of confuses it, but that looks like about right there. And then where is the last car? So the last car is about here. The last car in this row right here. It's like about here. And then it comes down and comes out about there, right? Somewhere like that. And this will be all the cars here. I don't need to worry about any kind of detail. Like, again, I'm just viewing the cars as one big group at this point. And then there's this car here. And because the panel's kind of wet, it's not, it might be hard to see what I'm doing. But it doesn't matter. I don't need a lot of specific details at all. I don't want that. I just want big shapes. And then I'll start coming in and blocking in the color. I'll start by blocking in darks. And I might want that to come out a little bit more. Something like that. All right. Now, let me see. Yeah, that's about right. The white building. And then also too, there's like a little building that's coming off the end. I'm not going to get even into the specific divisions. I'm looking for the line along the top. That's a little too high. And now I have a straight edge that I can use, but I don't want to. I use the straight edge at the very, very end to tune things up, like add a few, like say windows or whatever, but I want to, because I like a loose feel, I do not want to overdo it with the straight edge. It can start looking very tight and also just, I don't know, I just don't like the look of it, to be honest with you. It doesn't look good to me. And I'm watching the angle of that sidewalk, and it's kind of like, is that right? Yeah, I guess that is right. It's kind of like this. All right, and then there's some shadow shapes on the wall here, and also on the ground, which I'll put those in with, the appropriate colors at the time. I'm not going to sketch in the shadows right now. There is one right behind the tree. And then there's one right about here. And then one here. One small one here. Okay. This is a composition I've done before because, it was in my solo show this year, and I had a request to do another one, so that's what we're doing today. How's the scale on that? It feels like it should be a little bigger. I think that's pretty good. Now right above here, there's a little bump out. And then this roof line goes down. Okay, and if I divide, does that feel right? That might be a little high. We've got some nice areas of light in the painting, for example, right here. And it almost feels like this should come out a little more. I feel like this tree could be a little higher, maybe? No, I think that's all right. All right, so basically that's the composition. This comes down lower. And then there's another. And I don't care about the specific little changes in these buildings. I can also refer across and see, like, okay, where does the top of this building line up on the other side, you know? And it looks like I've got it pretty close. So there you can. That's another little trick for drawing is kind of using these little reference points. Okay, like where does that building come down right here, and does it intersect with that car that's right here? What are all the relationships and are they working? Okay, so I think we're there. I think that's pretty good. Actually, the shape of the top here is a little bit off. I find that like adding kind of interesting shapes is really good. Like, in other words, I used to really generalize shapes, but when doing cityscapes, it's really helpful to actually have all these little irregularities. So now I'm a lot more aware of that, and I'm a lot better about creating those irregularities and using them to create interest. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about the lines on the street. That's very obviously the last thing I'm going to do. So there is no detail in this. It's just all the big shapes. All right, so I'm going to start with my darkest darks. And I'm using ultramarine and alizarin crimson mixture here. And I'm mixing in a little bit of medium, which is 1 part odorless mineral spirits, 1 part stand oil, 2 parts linseed oil. This is my in the studio medium. When I'm painting outside, if you guys watch my videos, you know I use liquid outdoors for the most part. Actually, that's all I use outdoors. If I'm painting on a large canvas, then I won't use medium at all sometimes. But when I'm doing when I'm painting on a panel, I always use medium. Because when you thin the paint, you break down the binder unless you add medium to it. Okay, how's that? This should be higher. And I think that's about right there. I'm just trying to get close. Okay, and I'm using kind of a purple mixture here, because that's kind of my go-to darkest dark, and then I'll modify this, these colors as I feel necessary. Okay. And some of the shapes as well. I'm going to modify those too. All right, so the top of the road is here. There appears to be cars. I'm not sure how many of these cars I'm going to include. Well, we shall see. There's a car right there, and then they go off like this towards the bay. Here's the top of the road, and there's more cars over here too. Looks like those are going to be there, and then there's the bend in the road right here where it starts coming down. I'm going to use this, and I'm using a number 8 natural bristle. This has been my go-to brush lately. If you guys have been watching, you know I was using a lot of synthetics, and now I'm kind of digging this natural bristle. And why? Because I have less control with it. And so you might think, well, why would I want to do that? It's because I tend to paint better when I have less control. So that's the scoop on that. All right, and then there are certain areas up in the eaves here that are kind of dark. And this is a transparent, I'm using transparent darks here. I always do that. I always use transparent darks. It's kind of my, and that's kind of a tradition in oil painting too. So that's what I'm doing. And then I can come over and I can put like extra dark areas in if I want. All right, so what I want to do now is scrub in some, the buildings are not quite, I've added a little bit of white to this, and the buildings are not quite as dark as the trees, right? So Now I want to get the building shape in here. So I'm establishing a feeling of light, or light and shadow already. And it's basically the same approach that I have to painting like seascapes or landscapes or whatever, is, you know, map out the shapes and then break them up with, you know, little shifts of value and temperature. So in the trees, you know, I'm going to come in and darken here and there, and then there'll be little areas that are darker and lighter in this big shape right here. Same with the light shape. I'm viewing all of these buildings as just one big shadow shape. This is kind of the fun stuff, I think, is like picking around at, you know, at these little shapes, right? Like, so right here, the roof is coming out. And then there's another little one right here, maybe. That's pretty dark, so I'll knock it down a little bit. Something like that. There's some areas of light where, or are dark, that are extra dark, like underneath the eave right there. So I'm looking for, you know, I can start breaking this shape up with some darker bits. Top of the windows. There's like a little line here. What else? Over here, there's a couple windows. There's something really beautiful about, I feel, about something that's suggested. In other words, there's all this visible brushwork, but then you can, you know, it's like, wow, it's like all scrubbed in and brushed, like there's so much brushwork, but then it's also a building. You know what I mean? I think that's what if you're watching this channel, then maybe you're like me, and that's the kind of thing that you go for in your paintings. That's what you want. You want to have that magic where it's like, wow, it's all that brushwork, and yet it's creating this image. It's kind of a magical thing, and we're after that magic. We're chasing the magic. And it's a long journey. It's a long journey to figure out how to do that, believe me. I'm still trying to figure it out. I know you guys are trying to figure it out. But what else do we have to do? It's a worthy endeavor. I think you would all agree. Okay. So over here, I mean, I'm tempted to leave these shadows lighter. I think I will, actually. There's a little bit of light right in here. And these shapes on the wall, like where this tree is, there's going to be a shadow cast on the wall. And you know, just like in doing a landscape, I'm not gonna use exactly what I see. I'm gonna try to make sure that I'm creating an interesting pattern of light and shadow. So we got to come across here, and right in here there's a shape. A lot of times I'll start with what I see. Like I'll start with an accurate shape, and then if I don't like it, then I'll make the necessary changes to it. And this comes across. And I used to feel with my cityscapes that I couldn't be as sort of loose with them the way I am here, just with a big brush. This is detailed. I mean, this is a sort of detailed area, but look at that brush. And it looks fine. It looks a lot better than if I had taken a tiny brush and, no. But I really enjoy this part of it. You know, cityscapes used to give me stress. Like I would get anxiety about them, you know. And I don't anymore. I kind of like this process right here of kind of working things out, and it's fun. But it's not fun when it's freaking you out. Now that we got this shadow pattern established, question is, do I want to add... I think I want to add the sky now. So for the sky, I'm using ultramarine blue and titanium white. And I'm using a little medium. And I might try to keep the sky not transparent, but very scrubbed in. Well, I guess it is sort of transparent, even though I'm using white, which is going to make that ultramarine opaque. What I want is to, well, I want to get some paint up on here, and I want to see how the sky relates to the shadows, the shapes, and then I can always lighten it up if I want to. But it really helps to add the sky because then you can see, where things are. So I'm still just kind of scrubbing in different colors, trying to establish, just get the thing, like I said, get everything onto the panel, and then start making adjustments in color and value. That's the quick answer. And I can come over, because this is thin and it's transparent too because it's on so thin, I can come over this with, more opaque paint if I want to. I do like the look of scrubbed in paint with transparency, like where you've used medium so that you can kind of see that it's mopped on there. All right, now the mountains in the background. Let's see. I'm just going to use ultramarine for now. And I like to leave little bits of the painting or the sketch showing through, these little bits of orange from the burnt sienna sketch. I don't want to obliterate all of that. Looking good, so we're already getting a sort of a feeling of light on this building here, or the group of buildings. And then here, let's see what we got. We got shadows. Oh, that's too... I never finished these shadows down here. Right down here, there's a shape here that kind of comes out like... I'm going to paint that whole thing like that. I can always add little bits of light if I want, like a little bit right there. I'm not sure how I want that shape to be. My stomach. That might be good right there. This is in shadow too. All right, now I can put the street in. All right, I feel like the street needs to be a little darker. So I'm going to start off with a mixture of, that looks like it could be good. Ultramarine and burnt sienna. So it's a kind of almost like a gray, a greenish gray. And how does that look? That looks a little bit like it needs to be a little steeper, like this maybe? God, that shape seems too big. Oh, that's because, duh. That's because I shrunk the tree. Now we need the water, and I think I'm just going to use ultramarine with a touch of phthalo blue. And the value shift between the water and this mountain, it's pretty close in value. There's a temperature shift a little bit, and I don't think I'm quite capturing it totally accurately. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, which, that's what we do. I've got some decisions to make. I could put this in, as one big shape, which I might do that, and then just like the same, is kind of come in and alter that. So I'm using white, and I'm thinning it with the medium. And it's white and then cadmium yellow medium, so titanium white actually. that one goes there. And what about the next one is kind of almost pink, the building. So I might add a little bit of, I'm going to add some alizarin crimson to that mix, which was, yeah, so titanium white, cadmium yellow medium, alizarin crimson. Actually, that next one's a little kind of pinkish too, and then the one after that is more of a cool color. I will add these in here too, because there's some, this is just burnt sienna and white right here to add that kind of suggestion of color there. Oh, also too, there was a little bit of, there's like a roof right here. That's kind of dark. Okay. Now, and that last building is kind of a yellowish color. And then this other one almost looks to be like a pure white without any kind of, because it's cool. It's kind of like a cool, you know, they say, I don't know, I remember reading, don't ever use white out of the tube. That's ridiculous. If it's the right color, use it. Please. I remember when I first started, there was a time when white right out of the tube was perfect. It was like, and I remember questioning myself. I was saying to myself, no, but it's like they say you can never, you know, never use it straight out of the tube. And so I'm like, well, but what color do I mix it in? You know, do you know what I'm saying? It's freaking ridiculous. So sometimes people like pass along information, or sometimes books, or even YouTube videos or whatever. The information can be, sometimes you have to consider the source. That's a good thing to do. Consider the source. Like, in other words, look at somebody's paintings. Don't take advice from somebody whose paintings you're like, that aren't working. Do you know what I mean? So you look at somebody whose paintings you like, and then you can listen to them for advice. Because there's a lot of different ways to approach this whole thing. A lot. Some people would be saying, why is he using that massive brush for those small shapes up there? And it's like, because that gets the effects that I'm after, you know? That's why I use it. I'll bust out a small brush eventually, but I like to wait till the very, very last minute, or not minute, but the last part of the process where it's really necessary. Now, I feel like that's pretty good. I feel like it could almost be darker, actually, because that is about as light as it's going to get. Right, there's a little bit of red over here, kind of a brick red, and it's in the light, so how do we want to do this? No. Come on. So I'm going to use alizarin mixed with cadmium yellow medium. Yeah, it's kind of close. I mean, it's close enough for now. It's such a small shape. But I want to echo that. I want to echo that color elsewhere. You know, I'm looking for opportunities to have this color repeat. So maybe over there. Looks like there's little bits in here as well. Where else? Maybe I could put a little bit there. And I think that's it. That'll do. The problem sometimes is I let white paint get into my dark mixture. Like, in other words, if I am working on something and I've done all my darks, and then I start going towards my lights, and then there's another dark that I want to add something to. Because I use one brush for my whole painting, that's very typical. I like to work quickly, and if I'm switching brushes around constantly, it slows me down. So I'm a one brush painter, unless I cannot do it with this brush. But I'm finding that there's not much that I can't do with one brush. And actually trying to make that happen can be really a fun, it's a fun challenge. All right. I'm starting to already get into detail there too much. That's not what I want to do right now. All right, what else? This little bit of light needs to be covered up because there really isn't any light there. All right, now I've got the whole thing on here. Oh wait, a little bit of sky too, right here. There's a little bit of sky there. Okay, so that's the composition, you know, the basic shapes. And so I can ask myself at this point, do I like the shapes the way they are? This little tree right here, that's kind of weird. That needs to be fixed up. I don't mind the shapes over here. And these buildings will get, they will definitely get broken up with little shapes for windows and stuff. Not a super dark value though, like light values. The cars will all get defined as well. So I'm going to keep going. So right now what I want to do is come into this area here and start defining it. I like all this the scrubby brushwork that's in there. I do actually really dig that. I don't want to mess that up. But what I'm going to do is look for the darkest darks. And I'm using, again, same thing, ultramarine and alizarin crimson. Next step is to kind of reinforce some of these darks. And then also look within this shape here at the darkest darks in this shape. And I'll start making some temperature shifts in this shape too. So this is, again, this is also a fun thing, for part of the process. And I really enjoy using, I'm going to keep using this brush. Because it keeps me out of trouble. And like I said, I'm just looking for some of these really dark little areas and little shapes, right? Somehow some ultramarine got on there and it's okay with me. Sometimes things that are suggested, well, I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean, suggested things seem more real and more accurate than highly rendered drawings or paintings. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to leave that like that. Now I'm going to come in and do these. I'm going to do the trees. And this can be tricky because what color are they? And there's more red in it. So I've got a really dark green here, but I'm adding a lot of red. That's too much. No, maybe not. I think that's close. And then as it gets closer to the building, though, it's more of a dark, it has more of an ultramarine color. I'm tempted, though, to like get a bit of this on the panel, darken it, and then, then add some scrubbiness to it to get some luminosity in there. Because if I just paint it on and it's just dark blue or something and opaque, then again we have the same problem with the shadows becoming just too pasted on, or I like to be able to see through it to the panel. And I also like to see brushwork. So if the painting is not, if all these areas are too dark, you won't actually be able to see brushwork. Now, one thing for sure is that I've talked about this before, is that the photograph, the shadows are always darker than they are in real life. So it's something to keep in mind when you're working from a digital image. Is that you don't want to make them too dark. And I think by keeping it transparent, that's part of what I'm doing right there. All right, and the cars along here, we got a dark vehicle right there. instead of making one straight line, even though it kind of appears that way, it's sort of nice to do it in little segments because it's just more, it looks more interesting. The shapes are more interesting. Now this road section here could be, definitely could be, is going to need to be darker for sure. And more blue. I like the road to be transparent as well. In other words, scrubbed in like that. Now it's kind of tricky to judge the color because the lines in the road will kind of throw you off because they're reflecting the ultramarine sky, right? And so to decide what color, or to decide on the value of the road underneath the reflected the tracks that are reflecting the sky is kind of tricky. But I'm just gonna, I mean, it doesn't, value is more important anyway than the color. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. And I'm pretty sure it's true. My brain is trying to think of times when it wouldn't be, and I can't paint and think like that at the same time. That's asking too much. Talking, that's one thing, but thinking or doing math equations, that's not going to happen. All right. Okay, the relationship here, interesting. I need this sky to be dark like that. Yeah, like I do. Because if I lighten this sky too much, then this is not going to pop the way it is right now. So I kind of have to leave. I think I have to leave the sky sort of dark like that. Okay, put that on there to see how light I can get it. And then I'm going to kind of boost up some of the other, areas over here. Okay, so I can get a little more punch out of that, but not much. Okay, and yeah, so I need to make, that's as light as I can get. So what I need to do is use this as a gauge to go in with the sky. Now, let me put over here too, try to get this in as well, because this is, all the areas that meet the sky have to be, I'm trying to get those as accurate as possible. That's going to take a small brush to get that handled. All right, and then the color, actually, the color is pretty good. Having an ultramarine sky like that is pretty good. I mean, that color looks pretty accurate. So maybe I'll artificially darken the top. This goes like that. Mm-hmm. Actually, that comes down. And then, again, looking just at that line where these buildings meet the sky, and just looking at shapes. That's it. I'm not looking at them as buildings. I'm looking at them as shapes. That's it. And let's see. Yeah. Still using this big old brush. Okay, now in here, I'm going to need to add some shifts of color in here. I'm not going to work out the whole painting because it's going to take too long and the video would be way too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of finish up one area, and then I'll show the painting at the end of the video so you can see the finished thing. We can talk about it. But what I'm going to do right here is I'll just finish this area. Or not finish it, but we'll see how I do. Because in the ending period of the painting, I'm going to have to concentrate. And there's a lot where I'm just looking at the painting. I'm like rolling back and looking, and I'm not actually doing you know, there's long periods of time between those strokes of paint, and that could actually take. It's really difficult to film that. You guys understand. You know how it is. All right. So now adding some of these pink tones in here. And yeah, I've exaggerated those pink tones. They're kind of like a mauve-ish, right? But I'm pushing color here for sure, as usual. Kind of like that. And I can come in at the end and with a, you know, really small brush or whatever and clean up whatever details I need to clean up. But I'm going to do that as the last resort at the very end. All right, I'm going to leave this road here. I want to keep brushwork on there that's interesting. And what I'll do is I'm going to come back later after this dries, and then I'll put the lines on. I mean, I may try to do it before it dries. I don't know. Depends on the mood I'm in. But it's kind of a more technical, it's sort of a technical thing. And you want to like be able to erase it, so to speak, if you don't get it right the first time. So if this is all dry and I put the lines on and I don't like it, I just wipe it off and do it again. So I'll probably do that. I'll probably wait on the lines. And then I can use a straight edge as well. I was kind of self-conscious about using straight edges on, like I don't like to use them much. I'll use them as little as possible. And, you know, and I remember I went to the Legion of Honor in San Francisco and I saw a Monet painting. And it had a mast of sailboats. I really dig this painting. And there was rigging in the painting, in the boat. You know, it was like a small sailboat, but it had rigging as well. And I was like, wow, he used a straight edge. The lines were super straight, but it totally worked. It was fine. I mean, the painting still had a really loose feel to it. All right, let's see. There's little bits of dark in here, maybe. Okay, I really do like that side there. I'm not going to do much more to it. Especially, you know, this size of a painting, it's kind of like leaving it really suggested there. I think in here, I think I need to get some of that beige color. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll mix up a beige, like this kind of beige-ish color, which would be yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Kind of actually a greenish color, isn't it? That's a little warm, but it doesn't matter. So that's too light in value, I think. Yeah, that's too light. It's hard sometimes to darken things up, you know, once it goes over the edge. Actually, this will give me a chance to kind of tune up that line right there. Notice how this big brush is like really keeping me, it's keeping me out of trouble. I find that the number 8 natural is the ultimate. It's my favorite brush. I should just buy a bunch of these, you know. But this is my favorite, this is my go-to. And that even, what I'm finding is, like I can even, when I go out to Pescadero and stuff and I'm painting seascapes, on a big painting even, this can really work. It'd probably be nice to, you know, bump it up to a 10 for a, you know, say something that's, you know, like a 30 by 40 or I don't know. Not that I'm going to do that on location. A 30 by 40. Although I might at some point. Seems to be like a light there. All right, I don't want overdo it. I don't want to overdo it. But I do want some of that beige color in here. Maybe I'll use this now. Kind of put a few little lines. Let's see if this ruins it. There's like, we'll kind of go like the front of this building. I don't know. See, I don't like it. It's too, I'm gonna mess it up. I mean, I guess you could put the lines in and then mess them up. That's always a possibility too. I just think they look better when you put them in. I don't want to. Is there anything that bothers me about that? I suppose maybe right here. I kind of like that, but I'm getting some blending in there, which I don't like. So that's something that I can come in with later with a smaller brush, and so we're going to do that. We'll do that with this. You know what? I'm going to use a number 4. I'm going to experiment with this. This is a number 4 liner brush, and so I'm going to add some. I'm going to add some like definition with this, like little bits of definition. First starting with the darkest darks. And I'm just working with what I see here already. Alright, I'm tempted to leave that the way it is. I may have actually messed it up. I don't think so. I think it'll be alright. Now there's certain areas that are like reflected light on the windows. I'm not sure how I'm going to like that if I add those in, but let's try it. There's little areas of light. There's actually one up here, and then a couple down below it. There's maybe some over here. Let's see, that's too bright. It's too, gotta tone that down. Alright, so I'm not going to do too much more to this. Have I said that already? Probably have. Just using this number 4 synthetic to maybe straighten a few of these lines. What if I try to finish all the details on this thing with this brush? Let's see if I can do that. Already looking better. Quite a bit of yellow on top. Hitting that blue though, turning to green. And one more pop of white. I'm not going to get into the level of detail I did on the first time where I'm putting in the those little dots. Now when that gets carved out, it may look good, we hope. All right, now I'm going to kind of come around this with the blue paint. And that seems a little off. It's all right, I can fix that later. I just want to show you guys what this will look like. I'm just going to do the same on this side, but on this side you can see what I've done, and that's, you know, that's where I'm going to leave it. I do like those effects. All right, so I darkened the sky, I darkened the distant hills, I darkened the road, and I put cable car tracks on the road as well with a straight edge. But the buildings to the left, yeah, I didn't touch that. I just kind of left that as is. But I darkened the sky and the hills and the road just to make the lighter areas pop out. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support this channel, there's a Patreon link down below. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.